Okay, so this is where we kind of paused last time around, that what happens when we are investigating the, or rather how to figure out whether the a point on the real axis lies on the root locus or not, which is another way of finding out at least a part of the root locus. So what we will focus on today is the other aspects. I'm just scribbling on the screen. Check whether it's getting updated.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So we'll proceed. Yeah. So the next rule that we will um, analyze, will discuss, is the rule of asymptotes. Funnily enough, you will find that getting the asymptotes for the root locus is simpler than finding out the asymptote of that usually the method that you follow for asymptotes. This will be much simpler than that, though the derivation will be a little involved. Now, when it comes to finding the asymptotes, why are we doing this? Because, well, we really can't find out the root locus of the closed loop transfer function. So what we are trying to figure out here is to kind of get a description of a cage in which the root locus is going to remain enclosed. So if we have a good enough or tight enough cage, then that gives us a very good idea of the behavior of the root locus. We will discuss a few other points through which we will show that once we have this cage, then using the other rules, how we can figure out what the root locus is like. So to start off with, let us consider the closed loop transfer function equation. So what are we dealing with here? Which we can write as 1 plus k times If there are any problems, please tell me, especially in terms of what you are viewing, because I just got a notice saying that my network quality is poor. So if there are problems, please tell me immediately. This whole thing is equal to 0. So we explore what happens when so we have K for one thing, and when we take the limit as
Sir,
yes,
what is H of S, sir?
huh?
What is H of S, sir?
H of S, I mean, like we are looking at that. This is K. Where do you get this from? You get this by considering this feedback loop, isn't it?
Yes, that H of S is equal to K, no, sir. Only proportional gain we are using.
No, we have been dealing with this thing all the time long. Just a moment, my pen is not working. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is what we are dealing with, right? We had a KGS out here. Feedback. So this is what is going to give me 1 plus K GS HS in the denominator.
Sir, but that G is the open loop transfer function, right, of the system. So why will there be a K in it? Like not considering the control system, G will be the transfer function for that system only.
No, but when we are dealing with the root locus, see KG, this is known to us. H is also known to us. Our problem is what happens when we take this H as a feedback. Feedback we put in the gain H and we put in a gain K out here. Then what is my output going to be?
Yes, sir. In that case, that will be K into J into HS. But why will that K come into picture for the gain of the system?
Because we are looking at the what is the transfer function in this case? It will be Kg So we are interested in when this transfer function, the denominator becomes equal to 0, making our transfer function infinity. We don't want that. So that is why we are interested in looking at the root locus of this function. Of course, this can be any other parameter also. It doesn't matter. I mean, like if you have a just think of this as a polynomial that you have where it's of the form 1 plus kfs. And we are interested in, yes?
sir, from this representation, we cannot distinctively say which one is GS and which one is HS, right? So you have clubbed them to get a rational function.
No, nothing of that kind. This is the usual way in which we implement a control. We design a control system. We have something to tune up here in front of our usual system, and then we take a feedback.
Sir, what I meant was from that B polynomial and A polynomial, so they're that rational function type. So we cannot explicitly say which one is G and H individually, right?
No, we are not bothering about that.
Okay.
We are not bothering about that because this GSHS, we are actually ultimately expressing it as what? NS by DS. We are interested in the numerator and denominator. We are interested in the GH as a whole. And that is actually our headache. That we not only have the product of G and H, we also have a 1 coming in, which is kind of, because if we had only G into H, then both the systems are known to us. We would know the poles, zeros, everything. It's because when we give a feedback to a system G, putting in a gain K and the feedback through H, that is where, I mean, we face the problem, because then things become unknown. So in route also we are actually dealing with this. Most of the examples that you are given, it's actually you are finding out the route array for this function. So can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
So if I take the limit of modulus s tending to infinity, now here we have s to the power m, here I have s to the power n. So this here I'll have as s tends to infinity, this will tend to just the first terms of the polynomial. Okay, this way,
Sir?
this we can, yes.
Sir, are we, sir, why don't we break up in numerator and denominator for the transfer functions?
We have actually, that is what we have done here. This is the numerator part, this is the denominator part of GSHS. So this is actually your NS, this is your DS.
Sir, but there will be a contribution from the denominator of G coming from that kg, right? So the denominator of the transfer function won't be like 1 plus kgh.
Why not?
So because there one denominator from G will come, and so that will go to the 1. I mean, denominator from H will go to the 1. G's denominators will cancel.
Okay, but when you simplify the C, if this has, I mean, like N1, D1, this has N2, D2. So what is going to happen? Ultimately, you are going to deal with D1, D2 plus N1, N2.
I think in the numerator of T, there's a KGH, right? Because it's like KNS by DS divided by 1 plus KNS by DS. That's how it comes, right?
Yeah, but ultimately, see, you can express it in this form, in this polynomial form. Whatever you get. If you look back, see, this is what we are getting as a characteristic equation. This is the characteristic equation. And this is looking like this. So I am just recasting it and trying to look at it this way. And let me proceed. I think your doubts will get cleared. See, when we take the limit, then we are going to get some k. This is going to be there, and these terms will have less and lesser contribution as s tends to infinity, and 1 will have even lesser contribution. So
Yes,
we will
right.
have the scale.
But that depends
Yes.
on the value of m and n, right? Like if m is
Huh?
less than n, that will tend to 0.
I'm not talking of 10 to 0, 10 to infinity.
No, like if m is less than n, like the numerator is a lesser degree polynomial than the denominator. Uh,
Yeah. But we are trying to find out two things. So we will not go the usual route. We will first consider the one significant term and then two significant terms. Let me finish, and then if you have some doubts, I will clarify them. See, our one approximation can be b0 s to the power m by a0 s to the power n. Let us say s is, I mean, like what you are talking of is s, limit s is tending to infinity. Fine. If it is 0.1 infinity, if, I mean, like, it doesn't sound nice, but then we can say that there it behaves like this. Like modulus of s, we take as 10, 100, 1000 in those domains. As we proceed, the contribution of these terms will disappear one by one or become more insignificant. So this is the first thing that we can do. All right. So if I agree with this approximation, do you have, I mean, like, forget this KGSHS, let us say that this is a function. Do you agree with this approximation? This is my question. Okay.
Yes, sir. Mostly, yes. Yeah.
Forget what G and H are. Just consider that as a function, which can be, it's expressed as a numerator of a polynomial. Numerators are polynomials, denominators are also polynomials. So now that means this is my equation 1, this is my equation 2. So whatever I get from 2, I substitute in 1. So this, if you agree with, now what will we do?
No, but equation 1 is not essentially at s tends to infinity. It is just at any root, right?
Yeah, Anirudh, yes, I couldn't hear you.
Sir, I said that equation 1 doesn't necessarily need to be satisfied at s tends to infinity. It is just satisfied at every roots, right?
It's satisfied everywhere. This is an approximation. So this approximation is also approximately satisfied everywhere.
Okay.
This
This
is
is
always
like when the roots are asymptotic. Like, yeah, that is the case we are
okay.
taking, right?
And this is when we are going toward the asymptote. We are moving away from the origin as much as possible. All right. So there I can approximate this thing KGSHS by this. That is all I'm saying. So now if I write this, then this becomes I'm writing s to the power n minus n rather than m minus n because this is a positive quantity. And this I will write as which is approximately equal to minus 1. So I think if you ignore your earlier doubts, you will agree with what I am doing out here. This is basically, see, what I am doing is, suppose I have a root locus which looks like this. I am dealing with the root locus out here. Here the S is large, here also S is large. So this is what the area I am dealing with. So next task, maybe some of you may have preempted what I am going to do. Complex numbers, arguments is a very powerful thing. So we have and this is immediately equal to whereas this side k is a positive quantity, b0 a0 they are also real numbers. So what we do is now so this part we kind of know what is going to be the contribution from here, k b0 by a0. We substitute s is equal to m e to the power some I theta. So what do I get from there? And this will actually, this I should write as into R, where R is equal to so the way we have fashioned our problem, k a0 b0, these are all greater than 0. Hence, we are going to have 0, plus 0 degrees from B0, minus 0 degrees from A0, and M is plus 0 degrees from M to the power minus Q, and so what is this?
Minus Q theta.
Exactly. So we can, I mean, like, rewrite this as Q theta is equal to minus plus R into 180 degree, which is the same as plus minus R into 180 degrees, and therefore we get theta is equal to R is what? And what is Q? Q is equal to N minus M. So let us say we have our GS, open loop transfer function as S plus 3 . So what is my N?
2. Yeah. Q will be 1.
And M is equal to
1, 1. Yeah. Yeah.
so theta is equal to plus minus R and you will find that a couple of R's will tell you the possibilities. So you have, if you take R is equal to 1, 180 degrees, plus minus R is equal to 3, plus minus 540 degrees, which is again the same as plus minus 180 degrees. Okay, so what we do get is this is the asymptote. So we can see that first of all we already know from here how many branches? 2 branches. So whatever happens, we know that, and it has to be symmetric. Okay, if it were not symmetric, 4 branches, then we could say that probably we are looking at something like this. And but since we have the luxury of, or the limitation rather, of only 1 branch, then we can say more or less reasonably that probably we are going to see something only on the real axis, a line on the real axis. That means the asymptote itself, the curve itself will lie on the asymptote. Uh, let me go for a more complicated example.
Sir,
Yes.
can you explain once again what those 180-degree and 540-degree mean in that graph?
I'm just putting in divided by 1 in the rule. Whatever I have obtained, I'm just putting in r is equal to 135. So when I put in r is equal to 1, this is r is equal to 3. Now if you subtract 360 degrees, then this is going to be the same as this. So actually r is equal to 1 is good enough to give you the two asymptotes.
Sir, here like we took the condition kgh is equal to -1, right? And then we like took the argument of that.
Yeah.
But then like there is the magnitude of that also, right?
Magnitude.
In that like there will be infinity issues, I think. Like it will be like k b naught by a naught m power something m
yeah,
will
but how is
tend to
magnitude
infinity.
going to influence the direction of the asymptotes?
Yeah, like the direction of the asymptotes is okay, but then like it could be the case that the magnitude criterion doesn't even satisfy because like m would tend to infinity, right?
Magnitude criteria, why won't it satisfy? Where is the magnitude? This is something that is purely a mathematical equation. We have got it in terms of arguments, balancing arguments.
Sir, but for that equation to hold argument.
Why? These are two complex numbers. -1 is also a very generalized complex, a very specific kind of complex number. So ultimately this thing has to be equal to -1. So based on that, we are doing our derivation.
Sir, I will be removed from the meeting.
Huh? -1, see, ultimately what it means is that you have to come either this way, from here you have to come this way, or you have to come this way to get this -1 line. So that is why there is a plus and minus. And this is what I'm saying, these are the possibilities of behavior. Let me complete this. I think I'll be able to give you a clearer picture as we proceed. Another example, GS HS is equal to S square plus 2S plus 2. So here what will be your Q? So here you will be getting 3 branches, first of all, 5 branches of the root locus, and so far as the rules that we have studied go, we can also figure out how much of it is lies on the real axis or not. But from what we have done so far, we can figure out our theta. How much is that going to be? Same rule. So you will see the effective values will be theta is equal to plus minus 60 degrees, and the other possibility will be 3 plus minus 180 degrees. So basically it means that your root locus will have as its asymptotes
Hello, sir. Ayush here.
yes.
Yes, sir. Vishnu Prasad has messaged me that he has been removed again and again from the meeting. He is not even in the meeting right now.
Who is getting removed?
Vishnu Prasad.
Oh, this is sorry. I think in this meeting let me just. Wait a moment. Let me remedy this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, done.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I will inform you.
This is a strange kind of, what can I say? It has been happening in my other class also. There are strange ways of entertaining yourselves. So coming back to what I was saying, these are the angles that you will have: 60 degrees, 60 degrees. So what this tells me is, well, whatever be the case, either I am going to see my root locus like this or this. I don't know what it will be exactly. I'll have to use other things to figure this out. And here, this is how it should look like. And because of symmetry, chances are that this is going to be actually the real axis itself in this part. This part we can say that either it will be this way and this way, or it will be this way and this way because of symmetry. So now comes a more complicated derivation where we will take our approximation a little further. We take the limit as s tends to infinity, what is this going to look like? Okay, so this is what we have to start off with. Okay. That means my KG GSHS, this will look like K these are things that we already know, these poles and zeros, because these are for the open loop and for the controller. And this we can write as it's just the polynomial expansion. The first term will be the sum of the roots. So this will be likewise now I will be doing some manipulations. But first, as s tends to infinity, two terms. That is, as we are moving towards the asymptotes, my 1 plus KGS HS will now look approximately like this.
Sir, here KGSHS is -1. So this Z and P are the poles and zeros of
Exactly.
TS, or
Z is the I mean, like, you look at GS and HS combined, so whatever you get as zeros of this GS HS combination, and you will ultimately find that when you do this, the zeros will be coming from this n1 and n, the numerators of these two. So the zeros of these two will be coming out here, and the poles also will be for this GSHS combination.
So we can't say these are the zeros and poles of TS, right?
No.
Okay.
It's a forward loop gain. But right now, please just focus on this. We will come to those parts later. Let us focus on this behavior of this GSHS thing altogether. So you will have K B0 A0 and it will be summation of the zeros summation of the poles of this GSHS thing. So we'll do some further manipulations. So we multiply by s to the power minus m. So we will be getting at the top 1 minus and now this thing becomes a little involved. We will now use so this term we can further approximate as because this term as s tends to infinity, this x is this, you can consider this as x, an x which is getting smaller and smaller. So we, in our approximation, what we are doing is we'll now bring this to the bottom. This term was already in the denominator. And if I approximate this, I can make a further approximation now.
Sir,
Yes?
how did that appear in the denominator? That should be in the numerator, right? Like you approximated
Yeah.
one.
Okay, this is, sorry. Limit as 1 minus x, x tends to infinity. So I can write it as 1 by 1 plus x.
No, yes, sir. No, it's correct.
So that is what we are doing here. Okay? This is a kind of involved derivation. So please bear with me. So this term can further be approximated by removing another higher order term, and I will be getting s to the power n minus m summation of pi uh, sorry, yeah, so this is the first term, and then you'll have s to the power n minus m minus 1. When you multiply this with this, so you will get this product we neglect. Okay, another higher order term is neglected. Well, it's not exactly higher order, but yeah, because it's actually coming out. This is yeah, the okay. This is n minus m, n minus m minus 1. This will be lower, actually lower order. Yeah. So this is where we are going to land up. This is a more correct way of writing this. 1 by s to the power n minus m. Actually, it will be helpful for you if you take up pen and paper and try to do what I am doing. And now I'll make another approximation, one of which we have already done. Q is equal to n minus m, and alpha we write as of course the range of I is different, but it's essentially the sum of the poles minus sum of the zeros. So this means my limit I am now writing as from alpha. So alpha will be a complex number. Now this is going to be a little involved. So in that case, it will be of the form s minus sigma cube So this is my approximation. So next, we recall what did we get here? So we had K B0 by A0 and we also have obtained just now so if we combine these ideas, what are we going to get?
S minus alpha by q power q in the denominator.
You are going to get S minus, we can write this as our sigma is now
Alpha by q.
but we have which will give me I'm jumping a few simple steps out here. This is going to come out as equal to -1. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, you will have S is equal to beta to the power 1 by Q.
And then using Euler's formula, we'll find
Yeah,
that. Okay.
it's normally put as minus beta, so essentially it represents this, you can check. Oh, okay, sorry, it should not be Q. Okay, so you agree with this? So we go back to what we have derived. K B0 by A0 yeah, 1 minus S to the power n minus m. Oh, sorry. Wait. S to the power n minus m. And this we have approximated as S minus sigma to the power q. Yeah, minus qi, yeah. And q is n minus m. So I think this is what we got, and this is equal to minus 1. So this derivation, what does it tell me? That one, something that we have already derived, that is already there. If you take the arguments, for instance, then this already says that they will be equally spaced. And what will be the spacing?
Sir, won't there be division by n minus m? In the summation of pi minus summation of zi divided
Oh,
by.
yeah. Sorry. I made a mistake there. Yeah, it will be S minus, let me see what is my sigma out here. Summation of pi minus qi by q. There will be n minus m here. So I'm just taking this, considering this as an inverse. I mean, like, this is the expansion of this. Normally we proceed the other way around. Okay, so if you expand this, you are going to get this. We are used to doing it the other way around. That is, we take a polynomial in a factored form and then expand it, and then we kind of do our reductions. Here you look at it the other way. You expand this polynomial, you will be getting approximately the same thing as this. So this is equal to minus 1, and if you take the arguments, then you can straight away say that on the real axis, why real axis?
Because sigma p and sigma zi are real.
Yeah,
Because
so they
coefficients
have
of
to
the
be
potential.
either real numbers or complex conjugates. So when you take the summations, then only the real part. So let us look at some of the examples that we have dealt with earlier. I'll be looking at a simple case so that the factorization is easy.
Sir, what will happen if we take more and more terms into account? Like,
Probably will, I mean, like uncover other properties, but maybe I mean like curvature may come into picture, something like that.
But the centroid will remain fixed or what?
Now centroid will see these are asymptotes. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
we are considering the behavior of these lines at infinity. These lines are actually, their actual property is exhibited at infinity, not where the this root
Okay.
locus exists.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
But
at
what
infinity, it
gives
doesn't
you
make a much
is,
difference.
I'll just show you the example. We have,
So the previous analysis and this analysis deal with the same thing, but just in different methods. So
no previous analysis is,
Less
we
detailed.
put on a shirt, we did not put in a sweater or a jacket. This is giving you both the asymptotes, angles, and the point of concurrency. Previous one was a simpler one that gave us just the angles, but it did not tell us where they are going to meet.
okay.
So if you look at, say, a case of GSHS, which is easier to factorize, so this you can factorize easily, and you get so poles. Two plus minus 1 is plus 1, minus minus 3 is so, and we can also find out the pi, which we have already found out earlier. I think I showed you the same example, that it will be 180 degrees. Okay. So the actual root locus it actually looks something like this. This is one branch. Of the root locus. We'll have this as the other branch of the root locus, and this branch is going to go in here a bit. This branch moves towards infinity. This actually is one problem with the root locus. I mean, like, although it looks like a circle, it's actually not a circle. Each half is one branch. When you actually try to plot out things, then you will realize this. So this is one of the zeros. You will have a pole out here, another pole out here, and this is actually going to come in the green part. So this is something that you will do later, and your asymptotes will actually intersect at this will be considered as the centroid, but in this case this doesn't make much sense because your asymptotes are at 180 degree apart. But if you look at a more complex case, let us say something that is factorizable.
Sir, where was the point 4 in this diagram?
Out here, see the 0 is at -3. So your 0 will be at -3. You will have pole at -1 and 2, and your asymptote will lie on the real axis itself. But here, for this particular case example, it is not going to make much sense, because if you look at the asymptotes, they are at 180 degrees apart.
Then this is a closed, like, whatever the shape. So 4 shouldn't be inside this.
Yeah. So you will have an asymptote somewhere out here at 4. Okay. But this is one asymptote, this is another asymptote. So here it will not be very clear. But let us look at the other example that we looked at. Where is that? Where we had that 60 degree thing. Yeah. Now this thing can actually be factorized the top as I think it will come out as S plus 1 minus J, yeah, S minus 1 plus J. No, it will be S plus 1, yeah. S plus 1 minus J S, and this bottom part will come out as, we already have an S, and then S plus 1, S plus 2, these will be the factors, and S plus 3 plus 2J, S plus 3 minus 2J. Okay, so that means my zeros So what is your, this theta we have already found out, here also the same thing, but your sigma will be equal to minus 1 minus 1, poles minus zeros. So poles are minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and minus 6. Minus 9, and zeros will be minus 1, minus 1, minus 2 divided by this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. So minus 9 plus 2 minus 7 by 3. So that means we are going to have an intersect. So this point is minus 7 by 3, 0. This is my imaginary, sorry, wrong again. Yeah, so this is my imaginary axis, this is my real axis, and this is where all your asymptotes will meet. And actually I am going to show you a picture of this root locus. The actual root locus picture looks this is a rough picture, we'll deal with this later. It looks something like this. So these are two zeros out here. There is a pole out here. There is a pole out here, and two poles, further poles on the real axis. And this will be the centroid. So this will be your, these are your two asymptotes intersecting at this point. So once you, so now you see, this is what I was talking about, that we can form a cage now. We now know not only the angles of the walls of the cage, we also know where to place that cage, and that kind of gives us a guideline. Till now what we have done, these two things. One is we know where it lies on the imaginary, whether it lies on the real axis or not. That knowledge we have, that how much of the real axis is the root locus, and we also have some lines along which the root locus should proceed. So in my next class, I mean like take another class in between next week, since we missed a class before the pujas. So in my next class, what I will explain is a few other rules. These are pretty simple ones. That is, as you can see from the root locus. Oh yes, we also have figured out where the root locus begins and ends. See the location of the poles and zeros, they tell us where it begins and ends. We have the cage. We also know about the real axis. Now what we will, the remaining rules are, where does it intersect or cross the imaginary axis. Crossing the real axis is not a very serious business here because because of symmetry. But imaginary axis crossing, that is important, because wherever it crosses the imaginary axis, that is where you are going to have undamped oscillations, and those points hence can be derived using route. There is also another method we will discuss. There are also places which are known as break-in and break-out points. That is the root locus, because it's a higher order polynomial, there is a possibility that it can have multiple roots. So when you have multiple roots, what happens? The two branches must necessarily meet at a point. These points are known as break-in and break-out points. So we'll discuss these two rules in the next class, and then we will also talk about the applications of root locus. Okay? So this will be the end of today's class.
Sir.
It's been a little bit mathematical, I understand, but my feeling is that you should understand how these ideas are derived and what is actually goes on behind these kind of plots. It's a kind of a mathematical history of this plot, which was actually derived by somebody slightly older than you. And going through these derivations will maybe at some later point help you to understand this business of root locus better, and also give you some ideas in maybe unrelated field. So this derivation is a pretty involved but an interesting one, which, who knows, sometimes you might find these similar I mean the kinds of analysis may be necessary in some other subject. So I'll stop now, and we'll meet again on Monday and finish up with the rules and focus on applications.
Hello, sir.
Any questions?
Hello, sir.
Yes?
Sir, sir, the question that you gave on the route algorithm.
Yeah. Tonight I will modify.
Sir,
I just
can
give you
we
an
do that?
example so that it becomes easy for you to understand what is to be done.
Sir, can we do that using MATLAB or C?
No. I want you to kind of start in the raw.
Sir, then how can we do that in Excel? Because means how can we do programming in Excel?
Look at the menu. There is something called an FX. Search the net.
Do we have
Very
to
easy
use
in Excel.
the?
You won't find much of a problem. Just, I mean, like, take an Excel cell, okay, and then just type equal to and see what happens.
So do we have to use the VBA application of Excel?
No, you don't have to use the backend. These are, I mean, like, simply available functions. You just have to type them in.
So, the two special cases like with zeros, how will we handle those like using Excel?
Those who can handle will get more marks.
So then for that we'll have to use the VBA backend, right?
No, there is an if function in Excel. Check. This is an open-ended problem.
Sir, how do we submit it in the end? The first problem
You
has to
submit
be
the Excel
submitted.
file. Those of you who can do, you submit it. You mail it to me.
For the first problem, like there are two problems, and the first problem is like manually doing it.
First problem, you do it, and then when the time of submission comes, I will ask Brother Samundra, because he has given those problems. Whether he wants scanned copies or whatever, I do not know.
Okay. So Excel, we just mail it to you, or submit on
Yeah.
Teams itself.
Yeah, and as you can understand that to do this, you will have to put in some labor, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I leave it to you to decide whether you want other people to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That is up to you. So that is why I am telling that you have to do it in Excel. And see, Excel is important. Why I am telling this is important in another sense also. Don't expect that wherever you get to work, you will always have MATLAB in the ready. It's a pretty expensive software. Once you learn this, you will find that this is a very handy tool to have, which you can even use. If you use your brains a little, you can even use it to solve differential equations, even PDEs. So this is a kind of a learning exercise both ways for you. First, how to develop a small tool of your own which you can use everywhere without having a MATLAB license, and two, use that tool further in other subjects, other areas also. Okay? So by tomorrow morning, I will just give you an example how it should look like. And use of functions, I can give you. I'll give you a small Excel file, not the exact function that you will need, but I will mark out a cell where if you click on there, you will be able to see what is written out there. All right? So I think that should do. The rest you will have to work out.
So the polynomial can be of any size?
Huh?
The polynomial input can be of any size, or is there a restriction?
Keep it to 10.
Yes,
10
sir.
degrees.
Yes, sir.
We will just give the coefficients as the input, right?
Yeah, I mean the first row will be containing, you can name it as input row, so people will put in say the highest order at the top, 10, 10, 3, 6, 5. So if it's a third order polynomial, then it means I'm looking at 10 s to the power 3 plus 6 s square plus 4s plus 5.
So
I will put 10, 6, 4, 5 in the first column. From the second column onwards, the Routh array should get formed.
from the input only, it should decide like what is the degree. So there is no
Yes.
blank coefficient.
Blank coefficient, then we'll have to leave it as 0. Here you can't, I mean like you can't tell a computer it's blank. The coefficient is 0.
Okay, so just the gross number of coefficients will decide the.
Yeah. Computer, Anirudh, if you remember, Aniruddha, if you remember, I had discussed this in case of kinematics. That for us human beings, it is very easy to form a loop, kinematic loop. A computer does not understand a loop because it cannot come back to its same point. So we have to do manipulation. So here it's a very simple thing. You have to put in a 0. You can't tell a computer that coefficient is not there. It has to be given a value 0. Okay? So work this out. I think you are now you have sufficient time. So good night all. We'll meet on Monday.
Sir, when will you upload the notes?
By tonight. By tomorrow morning, you'll be getting to see it.
Sir. Sir,
That is
till
the Excel
Sunday,
part.
sir, we have
Yes?
our PTP submission and presentation till Sunday. So can we get some more extension?
You please
Assignment.
mail to Brother Samundarai, because I mean, like he said 7 days, so I have given you 7.
Okay, sir.
Sir, stop the recording before leaving.
Recording, I'm stopping it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.